Hey guys, it's your host Julian. This week I'm joined by Futurama storyboard artist and assistant director Aimee Steinberger to chat about the original run of Futurama, her 3 favorite episodes that she worked on, and we talk about the scene Shut Up and Take My Money, which is one of the most recognizable memes from the series. I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons that help support this podcast. Bill, Brent, 8-Legged Bird, Jacob, and Jordan. Thank you all so much for your support. It truly means a lot. If you want to become a member of our Patreon channel to help support this podcast, get all these episodes early and ad-free, follow the link below and sign up today. Now, let's get to that chat with Aimee. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cartoon Chronicles Podcast. I'm your host, Julian. Today I'm joined by Aimee. Aimee, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for giving us a bunch of stuff that we'll talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking Futurama here with Aimee. Now, usually we'll say, hey, how'd you get into doing what you're doing? And that's where we start, and then it kind of meanders our way through the conversation. However, ladies and gentlemen, there is a meme, there is a GIF, there is a picture that every single one of you that listens here has probably sent to their friends, their significant others, their family members, and that's Shut Up and Take My Money with Fry, Philip J. Fry from Futurama, waving some money and throwing it in an iPhone clerk's face. And this lady right in front of us created that or boarded that episode or boarded that scene. So, what is it like to be viral, essentially, Aimee? What is it like to have that as a piece of history?
Um, it was super weird, especially because I think like a year or two ago they had like a drone show at Comic-Con with that meme on it,
What?
and I was like, "What is this?" And then my best friend Crystal is currently directing on like the new Futurama, and I just saw her like this week, and she was like, "Look, Aimee," and she like gave me this little like it's Fry, to make your
Oh, that is so cool.
figure, and she's like, "Look, it's your man," and I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you." But it is super weird, like to have this one drawing that I made, and it's just like on everything. So yeah, it was kind of strange.
When are you gonna get it tattooed on you?
No.
So, do you remember the first time like somebody sent that to you, or you remember seeing it for the first time out in the wild? Was it a text message? Was it a Facebook message? Do you remember?
No, not really. I did think it was pretty funny though. Like, save the GIF and send it to my girlfriends. Haha, look at this. And then it like just kept going for like however many years it's been now.
Oh, it'll always. I use it at least once or twice a week. My buddy Larry will send me something, and it's just he'll use it. I'll use it once or twice a week. So thank you for sharing that. So let's take it one step further into your career. How do you get onto Futurama? Obviously, you came in a couple seasons into this already, so it was already established. Did you know somebody that got on? Is this something that you really really liked, enjoyed watching? How do you get on to Futurama?
Yeah, so I went to Cal Arts, and my junior year of Cal Arts, I honestly don't remember because I didn't apply. I don't think I applied. Did I apply?
Hmm.
Honestly, I must have. I think I think Rough Draft was like we had like a job fair or something, and Rough Draft was like, "Hey, you want to take a test or something like that?" I think. And I came in and took the test, and I guess I did okay, and they hired me.
Hmm.
So then that summer, instead of going home, I worked at Rough Draft on third season, I think, of Futurama. And I had not watched the show.
No.
Um, a lot of things like The Great North also, which I was directing on previously, I had not watched the show.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, cool. You guys maybe might want to hire me. That sounds great. Thanks. So yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then I went back to college for my final year. And then after I graduated, I basically just continued working there until um, Futurama stopped. And then we went back again when it came back and did the movies. And that's basically what happened. So, yeah.
So with you not seeing the show before school and you getting onto the show and having to work, learn these characters, and you're boarding for the show, what was that Bible like that they gave you? Did you have to get a crash course? Did they send you with any like lead board artist and that was like showing you the style of Futurama?
Yeah, so actually, in this time period, what I was doing was called character layout.
Mhm.
And so we had the boards were separate. And what I did with character layout, which is sort of like keyframe animation, and we were even, I mean, we were doing it on paper. So I had like a stopwatch and a tape deck. Like it's so freaking old, man. Um, so we basically would do individual scenes, and I would just do the character. Um, and I'm sure we must have had a Bible, but I don't remember it. I think my first director was probably Swinton Scott, and he was like, "You don't know anything," and I'm like, "Well, help me, please." Um, because we were doing it on paper, so we had field guides and stuff. I didn't even know what a field guide was, so I really had a lot of stuff I needed to learn. So basically, they taught me on the job, and then as we started to transition later to working digitally, then that kind of combined the jobs of storyboard with character layout, and I didn't know how to storyboard, and they were like, "Well, try."
You'll learn.
So I basically learned that on the job as well, and then I've been trying to improve over the years, and then I assistant directed on Futurama later, and then eventually started directing. So that's basically how it worked. But almost all I basically was trained as a character animator, so I wanted to be like a Disney feature character animator.
Yeah.
Um, but when I graduated, Disney decided they didn't want to do 2D anymore.
Mm.
So I basically, pivoted into 2D animation and then storyboards. So almost all of it was entirely learned on the job. So
So with that being said, you wanted to be like Disney. You hear it all the time with people. It's like Disney is like the place a lot of people want to go. It's like they're the standard, they're the bar. They're through with everybody. Everybody knows the Disney, right? When you're going through school in Cal Arts, are they showing you anything digitally, or is it still all old school pen and paper?
um, hmm, that was very early. Um, that was late 1990s.
Hmm.
I There was really not very much 3D animation then. There was like a little bit. So we were still doing stuff pretty traditionally. Like we would scan it and modify it like in the computer, but we were
Hmm.
still drawing on paper. And then when I was working on Futurama, we were still drawing on paper. And then even years later, when I was at The Simpsons, we were still drawing on paper. Very very clearly remember a scene. I think it was this one about groundskeeper Willie or something. And it's like a My Fair Lady episode or something. Oh, I think it's called My Fair Laddie. Um, and he's like dancing through the scene and like touching things. And I remember it's a crowd of people, and they were like, well, you can only use 5 pieces of paper because
Fuck.
they were still going to shoot it on the old school Oxbury, even though at that point in time, like Futurama had already moved to scanning things in the
Hmm.
computer and digitally compositing it at least. So but The Simpsons was like, no, we're going to shoot it on the Oxbury. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? So then I had to like exacto blade all these characters into the sheets because, like if there's more than 5 pieces of paper, the camera can't see the character like in the back. So yeah, I don't even remember what your question was, but there you go.
Oh, no, if they had trained you coming out of Cal Arts at that time to do, because you said you learned storyboarding from layouts, like on the job. So I was wondering if they taught you digital on the job too, or if that's when you went back for Cal Arts for that.
No digital.
No. Yeah, gotcha. Um, with that being said, you say you do Futurama your junior year, then you go back your senior year. What was it like? Was that an internship or was that an actual, you guys got paid to go and work Rough Draft Studios?
Yeah, so it was an actual job.
Mhm.
I felt super cool and I bought an animation cell.
Which one? You still got it?
Yeah, I do. I bought several. I don't remember which one was the first one, but I
Mhm.
have I have a cell from The Last Unicorn, and it's like
Okay.
cool. It's like like a close up of the unicorn's head, and then
Hmm.
past the field cutoff, like whoever painted it was bored, I guess, and like the horn is like flaming on the end. And I got some cells from The Secret of Nim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think those were probably my first cells. Maybe something from Slayers or something too. So
Yeah. Were
yeah.
you a big Don Bluth fan?
I just really like The Secret of Nim.
Yeah.
Um, I think some of his other films are a little unhinged.
I'm a real big fan of All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Mhm.
Him and John Pomeroy, their character design on Charlie B. Barkin is it's one of my I don't know how to put into words. I had to talk to him a few years ago, and it was just like before we hit record, I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to say to this guy. I was like, this guy made me as a little kid be okay when we had to put my dog down because I saw Charlie as a kid, like, oh, he got. I'm not religious at all, but he's like he got wings and he got a halo, so I know Charlie's going to be okay. So I know Stripe is going to be okay too, right? So I told him that like right before we hit record, and I'm like, shit, that was like my closing material. What am I going to open up with this sad story about me putting my dog down, you know? But I'm a big fan of Pomeroy and Don Bluth films. I mean, it's with the exception of that Land Before Time, ladies and gentlemen, I've seen that one way too many times. I'm glad the dinosaurs are extinct. But
They're, they're amazing creators. I
oh
just
yeah,
think a few of the films maybe could have used stronger stories. So yeah.
yes, that they could have. All right, well, so with Futurama, right? So you're working on this one. You've got some fantastic episodes you picked up that we'll talk about here shortly. But what were some of those things that you learned? Like, I know this is a long time to think about ago, but was there anything that you can think of that they showed you while you were on the job that you took back and maybe taught to some of your other students, your other friends at Cal Arts in between that junior and senior year? Or what's some of the things you learned that first job that kind of set you on your path to be a really good artist?
Yeah, I don't think I really talked about it much with like the other students at CalArts, but I still remember some specific things that I try to pass on to people like when I'm directing and I have storyboarders working with me. So I mean, I remember specifically Swinton taught me like better construction techniques and like how like the cuff of your sleeve, it turns in space and how you can change, whether it's curving up or curving down so that it looks like, it's in the right space. And every time I draw a cuff, I'm like, oh, Swinton, oh, you taught me how to not be such a trash panda with my drawings. Other than that, I mean, I learned a lot of stuff because we couldn't really shoot our things very much. So you had to sort of guess at the timing to some degree. So I had like a stopwatch and stuff, and I would try to act it out, like, oh, Lila's gonna like flip her hair, like how long is it gonna take, that sort of thing. So I think I learned a lot from that, and then just working at Rough Draft in general, they taught me a lot of things on the job. So later, when I worked on another show, they were like, "Oh, do you want to like learn how to do timing?" And because I had a character animation background, I already sort of knew how to time stuff pretty well. So then it was natural to learn how to like write it down in the sheets and everything. So I mean, I learned a lot of stuff, and um, then eventually, when I tried to move into storyboarding, I had some really good artists who helped teach me how to do better at picking my camera angles because it's kind of an entirely different thing than character
Mhm.
animation when you think about it. Like character animation is just about I'm gonna feelings and the character moving around. But doing the shots is like a totally different part of like your brain, like figuring out what the camera angle is and how it's gonna flow into the next shot and how that affects you emotionally. So um, yeah, I'm very grateful for all the stuff that they taught me and try to pass it on to other people as well because it's important. So yeah.
That it is, man. It's like you guys, it's like a baton race with animation I've seen, you know. It's like you guys got your mentors that you come into, and then you guys get to eventually be somebody else's mentors. And you guys just keep one-upping each other. Like I said, that's how progression works with all of this. Um, so with that being said, characters I always get asked questions from the people that listen and watch the show. Who were some of the characters that were the hardest for you to kind of like slip into when you first started working on the show? Do any of them stick out to you?
Uh, I think I just enjoy doing all of them. I wouldn't say that any one of them was particularly harder. I really enjoyed doing Leela because she would get to do like some martial arts stuff, and I think that's
Mm,
really fun. Um, yeah, she was probably my favorite, I guess.
yeah.
And Bender's really funny. You do have to get used to sort of the rules with Bender because, he doesn't have the same facial expression range as other characters. So you kind of had to cheat it by like, oh, if you tilt his head up, then it sort of looks like he's, frowning. Or if you
Mm,
tilt it this way, it looks like he's smiling or whatever. And then the way you can change like the little lines in his mouth and things like that. But it's definitely it's a little mm, like a lot of body posing type stuff was more important than like his facial expressions to some degree. So yeah, but it wasn't like hard per se. It was kind of just like a fun challenge, I guess.
yeah. Now, did you ever get to sit on on any of the table reads whenever they would go through episodes?
I don't think we did that on that show. We've definitely done that on a lot of other shows, but I don't think so on that one. It is so weird though because it was so long ago. Like we legit would they would give us a tape, like a cassette tape.
Mhm.
Like I don't people listening to this are gonna be like, what are you talking about? And like we had a tape deck right next to our desk and I would just listen to the track over and over again and then animate to it basically. So yeah.
We've had a quite a few of the directors and board artists and stuff like that. I think Brad had talked about it. Brad Abelson on Simpsons. They had recordings of like all the characters so whenever they would work on them. Another guy that I remember talking. I don't know if it was on the show so much for I talked to him outside of it, but Sean Cashman, he was a director on King of the Hill, and they would have recordings of like the table reads or when the voice actors would go in there and then they'd try to match the lip movement to the art. Now, with that being said, do you want to talk about Crowdball now, or do you want to talk about that at the end of this episode? And you want to talk episodes first?
Talk about it now. I'll give you two anecdotes related to crowds. One is we were working on the Futurama movies, and I can't remember this guy's name, but he was really good at doing like really complex scenes. And one day he said to me, he was like, Amy, don't ever do a really good job on a crowd. And I was like, why? I want them to think I'm a good artist or whatever. And he's like, no, no, no. If they know you're good at crowds, they'll just give you all the crowd scenes. And, back when we were doing this, it was very time consuming to do the crowds. And I know from listening to, your episode of where you're talking to Brad, that, he was talking about how like the writers would like intentionally put like crowds in The Simpsons, like, oh, it's
Yeah.
everybody in town and they're on fire and there's a whole bunch of lionfish. So yeah, that was definitely a thing. And like when we were still working on paper for Futurama, we had like these things that they were basically crowd packs. So when they had a crowd scene, like if it was like a coliseum or something like that, we had all these packs where it just had a bunch of crowds on a piece of paper,
Mm,
and they would intentionally try to like get the angle so that they could reuse these
yeah.
characters. It was just so time consuming. Like it would spend little tiny heads, like like
Hmm.
this, have to draw all these people. So what would happen is we'd have to exacto blade the little characters into the drawing.
God.
And all of these extra little exacto bladed extra characters that were left on a piece of paper, um, like, when you cut out a sticker and then the extra part is left. So we thought it would be funny to like roll it up into a ball. Um, so then every time somebody did a crowd scene, they would add like paper crowd to the ball, and then we'd like wrap a rubber band around it. And then sometimes we would toss it
Hmm.
around. So the ball became like quite large, like a beach ball size, basically. And we were throwing it around, and everybody thought it was funny until like hit somebody in the head. And then, this is my friend Jenny Mahler, I think, and she worked on The Simpsons for a long time too. She's like, God damn it. And we're like, we're sorry, we'll never do it again. And I don't, we might have, but yeah. So
Where'd the
that's,
crowd ball end up at?
I
Do you
have no
know?
idea. Yeah, it's, I, it probably died. Somebody probably
Oh,
took
I
it.
hope somebody's got it in their garage. That needs to be on exhibit.
That would be so funny. I mean, actually, I was cleaning out my garage this year and I found like just random scenes from like The Simpsons and Futurama that I had saved and they were like in a
Mhm.
box and it was just kind of weird, but yeah.
That's got to be cool to go back and just like it's you guys' version of a high school yearbook, essentially, right? You get to go back and look and you remember all the people you got to work with, those scenes, probably one or two of those scenes that you look in those boxes, you're like, shit, I remember this one being a real pain in the ass, this crowd scene right here. Now, this is going to sound like a very, very dumb question, but when you guys had to exacto blade those out and you guys were obviously putting those back on the storyboards, I'm assuming, to be sent out and animated, are you guys just gluing it down? I mean, is it little like sticky tape? Like, how are you guys gluing all those little heads for crowd scenes into the paper?
Just tape basically. So the reason you use an X-Acto blade is you would take the piece of paper that you were trying to put it into, and then you
Hmm.
put the other piece of paper that you were trying to add to it on top, and then you would cut the X-Acto blade through it, so it was a perfect cut. And then
Hmm.
you take the back piece out and put the new piece in, and it fit perfectly like a puzzle piece.
Got you.
Put tape on the back. So that's basically how it worked. We actually did that with storyboards as well. And so a lot of times what we would do is you they'd be like, this character is 10% too small. And you go over to the copier and you would photocopy all of the storyboards with the character in it, and then you'd have to exacto blade it out. And
Mhm.
then then 10% larger, exacto blade it back into the scene. So technology is amazing, and I'm so glad that we have it now because that was not fun.
Oh, it sounded like a huge pain in the ass, man. So thank you for breaking that one down. So we got three episodes that you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about that were some of your favorites to work on. And we got All the President's Heads, Fun on a Bun, and ladies and gentlemen, Jurassic Park. Where do you want to start on this one, Amy? Dealer's choice.
Yeah, let's just start with Jurassic Park, and I'll
Okay.
explain why I picked it. That was pretty early. It was a very long time ago. But in general, what I like doing the most and what I think I'm known for, so to speak, are two things. One is animals, and anytime there's an animal, they're like, "Give it to Amy," and I'm like, "Yes, give me all the animal scenes." And then the other one is I really like to make people cry. So
Yeah. You did both.
yeah, I just want to make people feel things. And like that was the reason why I got into animation is like I was like so moved by animation. And I like the feeling like when I watched Beauty and the Beast when I was a kid, and I was just like crying because I felt like these feelings of these characters felt so real to me. And like that's what I wanted to do. And so whenever I'm allowed to do that in animation, even though I'm working in adult comedy, my favorite parts are the ones where you like have very, deep emotions and make people feel something. So that's why I picked that episode.
Now, with this one in particular, is there one or two scenes that you can point to that you worked on that you just had a blast with?
Yeah, so I did a lot of the dog stuff, and
Hmm.
so funny, I can't really remember exactly which scenes I did. I remember I did the part where Fry meets Seymour and he gives him pizza.
Oh, that's such a cool scene in the alleyway.
Yeah, I remember just vaguely that I drew something badly, and Swinton probably was the one, and he was like, this is wrong. Like
Was
this
it
is
Fry's cuffs? Was it his cuffs?
it might have been his cuffs or like the pizza. He was like, make it look better. Um, so I do remember that. And then I probably did like a fair amount of the dog like running around looking for Fry, I think. It's hard to tell because like we drew very odd model. So it's not like I can look at it and be like, oh, that's the way I draw dog feet. Although to be fair, that episode of The Simpsons where Bart is like a feral dog or something.
Hmm.
I don't know what like it's probably like season 17 or something. If you look at that one, I'm like, those are my dog feet. Like
Yeah.
nobody told me that. Like maybe they should have, but that is the way I draw dog feet. But yeah, so I did that, and then when I was rewatching it, it was so weird the stuff that you remember because it was so long ago. But I remembered I did the part where Fry's mom has like the cheese hat on her head. Like I specifically remember drawing her like going woo, like 'cause she's watching a sports game or something. But yeah, I guess that's what I remember mostly. Yeah, it's a great episode, and you just randomly see people who have like I saw somebody had done these really cool like risograph prints, and
Mhm.
and it was like at a Comic Con, and she'd done Fry's dog, and I was like, oh my God, I did that, and she was like,
Mhm.
what are you talking about? And so I explained it to her, and then I was like, I'm gonna give this to Claudia at Rough Draft, and she's like, oh my God, so it's probably there now.
That's so cool. It's this episode, and we talked about this when I had Eric on, it's such an emotional episode because like I said, everybody has like that connection with I mean, I got my dog. I'll show you my dog real quick. Ollie, I got my no, no, come here. So let me see if I can get her up here. She's being shy, but I got my
Aw.
dog right here. Every podcast I've got, she's in here with me everywhere I go. She goes with me. She's my best little buddy. But everybody's got a connection with their dog, right? So you guys hit on this one, and I'm not sa I'm not saying that this episode of Futurama is on par with Interstellar, but this had Interstellar vibes. I rewatched Interstellar for I'm pretty sure it's Interstellar. That's the Matthew McConaughey one. Um, I just rewatched this one a little while ago, and I'm watching Jurassic Park today, and it's that scene where you were talking about Seymour like trying to get them to follow him to find Fry. They see him in the cryogenics lab. And that scene right there, like his parents don't even look at the cryogenics thing where Seymour's at. And it made me feel like that scene in Interstellar where Matthew McConaughey is literally trying to break the time warp with his daughter and he's hitting the wall and the book falls down. Like that scene right there tore me apart right there because I got three kids. I got a 16, a 4-year old, and a 2-year old. And it's like one of these days I'm not going to be here anymore, right? So it's like you're looking for any moment to like latch on to find some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Connection, I guess, right? And you see that, and it's a man at a time story with Futurama and Fry, right? And you see that scene and where it all started, but it was so close to not happening if his parents would have just looked up. But they had that hangover from getting bologna poison the night before with the cheese hat. Um, so it was just a beautiful episode in that sense. And then you bring in the aspect of the dog. Like I said, everybody has got a dog. Everybody loves their dog, and you see this little guy, he's doing everything he can to save his best friend. And the saddest part is he waits 12 years. Spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't watched this episode yet, there's something wrong with you. But Seymour has 12 additional years after Fry gets frozen. And you see that scene, Fry, Bender goes in there, tries to get it because he's jealous the entire time. Goes in there, he gets Seymour out of the molten or the lava, brings him back, and then as soon as he starts drilling, realizes he's 15 years old, right? And that heartbreaking moment where he's like, just stop the cloning. Just, I don't want this. He had a life after me. I don't want him to come back and be sad. You guys hit so many like emotional hurdles on this one for somebody. This was so much deeper. Like when somebody says cartoons are just for kids, or my mom would walk by and she'd see The Simpsons, she'd see Futurama, she'd see all these shows like, oh, that's such stupid humor. You're rotting your brain. I'm like, no, there's some like emotional intelligence in this shit. These are some of the most brilliant writers, some of the greatest artists that have ever touched a pencil have worked on these shows. And I'm looking at one of them right here because you got to work on a show that was so impactful for so many of us. So it's a long-winded way of saying thank you for making so many of us cry, Amy, you and the rest of the team on this episode. This is a beautiful episode. This is probably like top two episode of this entire series for me.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, and I think it's very unfortunate that a great number of people think that cartoons are just for kids
Hmm.
because uh, it is an art medium and you can do anything with it. And I think that if there wasn't that stigma, then we would see more variety of work in American cartoons. And
Hmm.
that is what I would like to see. And I think that we're starting to see a little bit of that with things like Arcane and Blue Eyed Samurai and on the
Oh,
side
so good.
effects and things like I do have hope for the future that we can tell more interesting stories and not be held back by cartoons are just for kids. And then the other thing is that, these people, like you said, who are writing these shows, they're very clever people, and all of us are trying to tell things that are deeply personal to us. I mean, sure, some shows are just, haha, it's a stupid joke or whatever, and that's fine. Like people love to laugh, but a lot of shows like this one they're trying to say something that's personal, that people can relate to, and that's what's important to me. So.
Absolutely. And this was like I said, a brilliant episode. And I'm so glad you brought up Blue Eye Samurai. That is such a phenomenal show. That every time I think of that show, I think of the puppet episode, and then the one after that one when I can't remember her name now. But she's going through the castle, and then they've got "For Whom the Bells Toll," the Metallica cover by the Japanese band. I'm like, I'm watching that one. A sidebar first, just a second. I'm watching that one. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's asleep. I'm on a fucked up sleep schedule, anyways. So I'm just sitting. I'm down there, and I'm making ramen. I'm eating pasta. Excuse me. I'm eating pickles and all this other stuff. It's late. And then I hear it going. I'm like, no, are they doing Metallica? And they do Metallica. And then they do that whole scene where she just storms the castle, gets LSD essentially blown in her face by whatever that ninja was, and she's fighting shadow monkeys and what. Blue Eye Samurai, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking Futurama now. Blue Eye Samurai, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. It's a fantastic show. Um, but nonetheless, Jurassic Park. A few things I wanted to point up to before we go to the next one. Best line in there was Bender beating Zoidberg after he was supposed to take over Fry's spot. So best line, he told him you're not fit to wear Fry's leotard. That had me cackling quite a bit. And the best scene was the ending for me, man. The ending sequence where you just see Seymour. I can't think of the name of the story with the dog in Japan that like his owner dies. What was it?
Hachiko.
Thank you. It just had that vibe to it. Just him just not moving, him suffering silently because, dogs can't talk. But it was just like that ever loyal, companion, right? He stuck it out until he couldn't stick it out any longer. And then you see the whole universe changing around him as the years go by. So I just thought it was like the cherry on top of a milkshake. It's like I'm not saying it's the best thing, but it was just like that was the best thing in that entire episode, right? I loved that whole sequence on how you guys wrapped it up, man. From start to finish, man. 5 out of 5, 10 out of 5, whatever you want to rate this one for me.
Yeah, I feel like that episode has a lot of really interesting parts to it. I think it's more poignant because he can't talk,
Mm,
um, because you just feel so bad for him that he can't communicate. And then also, like, when you think about his parents didn't really try that hard to find him. So, and then Fry thinks that the dog had a life after him, which is sweet, but it also kind of talks about like Fry's self-esteem, when you think about like how his family probably treated him. So I just think that it touches on all of that. So it's really nice. Surely they must have been inspired by the Hachiko story. But it was funny, like I think I learned about Hachiko maybe because of Futurama.
mm.
Um, and then when I went to Japan, it was fun to see the Hachiko statue.
That's pretty cool. We're actually planning a trip now to go to Japan. That my oldest, he's all into anime, and he's gotten me into anime. And then I trade him American shows, so he knows like we've got some good stuff over here too, and he'll trade me anime shows. So that's where he graduates in 2028, so that's where he wants to go. I'm a huge sumo wrestling fan, so I'm like perfect. Line it up. Let's go. We're gonna watch some sumo wrestling and see some cool shit over in Japan. So I've actually been using Duolingo to learn Japanese. I'm only on like lesson 4 or 5, so I've got 2 years to get me there.
As an artist, I'm required to tell you that Duolingo now uses AI. So if you might
Oh,
want to use
does it?
a different program.
Oh shit, I didn't. Well, fuck, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it just came, you can Google it. It just came out recently. So
Oh,
don't do
really?
that, but also maybe you should
God
use something else.
damn it. I'm just gonna buy a book now. But anyways, fuck, that really makes me mad.
Yeah, right?
Oh, Duolingo, do better. Anyways, I closed my phone. I was so mad.
Better. As
Uh,
a sidebar, as long as you stay to the major cities in Japan, they speak a lot of English. But if you do learn some Japanese, they will be super happy. So
Oh,
you
I'm
should
learning it.
learn it.
Um, I, oh yeah, I was in the Navy for a little while, and they would give us little pamphlets every time we would deploy, whenever we'd go to different countries. And I was the guy like I'm not into I'm not into strip clubs. I don't drink. I always wanted to go and experience the culture. I cook for a living now. So I always just wanted to eat what everybody else was eating, and it was very hard finding people like called Liberty Buddies, to find somebody that one wasn't into, strip clubs, wasn't into bars, wasn't into going and just doing stupid shit. They just wanted to go and eat and experience the culture. So they would give us these like little packets, and it was like mainly like little phrases that you could learn in 20 minutes just in case you got lost and stuff like that. But I noticed a huge shift in people like when you try to speak their language or you try to do the things that they do for their customs and stuff like that. I got treated a lot better than a guy that looks like me should have gotten treated, um, just on the outside looking in, you know what I mean? So same thing with Japan. Like I said, I'm such a fan of so many things that they do. Like the last thing I want to be is that gaijin, right? That foreigner that goes over there and goes, "I want you to speak my language," you know?
Yeah, I think as long as you are polite and respectful, Japanese people are extremely friendly to
Mhm.
tourists. It's very nice. Um, and it's actually one of my favorite places that I visited. I think we went like 3 times or something. And they're very patient with your bad Japanese.
Yeah, that's
So
good because I'm
yeah,
having trouble with it.
I think, just understand some of the cultural faux pas and don't be rude and you'll be fine.
Absolutely. That goes for any place, ladies and gentlemen. Always try to be as kind as possible.
Definitely.
All right, so that next two episodes we got All the President's Heads or Fun on the Bun. Which one you want to talk about next?
Uh, let's do all the president's heads. So I think at that point I was assistant directing, which was pretty cool. I would sort of like fix other people's scenes and make them look nice. I still was doing my own scenes, and then also I did some animation timing. I think at that point, maybe a little bit of post. And the reason I picked this one is because I was super into Doctor Who at the time.
Yeah,
Um, and because it was like, sort of like British parody episode, that was really fun. Um, I put a whole bunch of like Easter eggs in the background of the head jars. So there's like
do tell.
Amy Pond's in there somewhere, like a whole bunch of stuff. I probably put like some Monty Python names in there, just all kinds of dumb stuff. And I remember when we were screening it for like the writers and stuff, and one of them was like, "Who are these names? This is one of your friends, isn't it?" And I was like, "No, it's a Doctor Who character. Like, I did it on purpose because it's a British episode, that sort of thing." But yeah, we had to all of those, at that point, we were doing like high res, like digital, because things were coming out on like DVD and stuff. So that we had to be sure that all the heads had names on them, even if they were very small. So, um, and then also there's a scene where it's like one of the exterior shots of the building, and there's a phone box. Um, and so I was like, what if the doctor goes into the phone box? And they let me do it. And so I put the 10th Doctor in there because he's my favorite. And it came back fully animated, and I still have it. But whoever was in charge was like, why is this the 10th Doctor? Clearly, the fourth Doctor is the most important Doctor. And so then they changed it to the fourth Doctor. And I was like, it's my scene and it's my Doctor. And then I just remember animating the Queen of England harassing the professor, and that was just really fun. What else? They let me design the costumes, which was really fun.
Yeah.
Because I do 18th century costuming just like for fun. Um, so my director Stephen Sandoval was like, "You're into this shit, Don't you want to draw like some frou-frou costumes?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" So I had a lot of fun like making Leela's, cute outfit and her like pretty little hat on her head and all that
Hmm.
jazz. So remember like Leela like that has like a martial arts scene or something in there. And then, of course, I drew Paul Revere's horse because, as you know, anytime there's an animal, they give it to me. So,
Yeah. I can just imagine you, director. You're into this shit. You want to draw some stuff?
no, I'm sure he didn't say it that way. He's actually he's really nice. But I just thought it was funny to say it that way. So,
Oh, in my head, that's how I'm gonna imagine it for a little while. I
yeah,
love this episode. I completely forgot about this episode. It was so much fun. I love like Back to the Future. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So getting to see like first off, sidebar for just a second about this show. How difficult is this show to work on? Because you guys have a lot of like sets in a sense of like locations that this show is in. You know, you've got the hangars, you've got inside the ships, you've got inside the delivery, you know, so you've got some of these things that you could probably reuse. But there's a lot of these episodes that you guys are in like a completely different world and you guys don't go back to this world again. How difficult was that? I don't know if you can remember that far back, but like how difficult is that to like every every background damn near was different. Every location was different. Was that difficult, you know, working on it with the show?
yeah. I think that we were relatively lucky because I think that Futurama always had a pretty decent budget, maybe compared to some other shows. And so we had a decent amount of time. I didn't usually have to work like crazy overtime or anything like that. But I mean, I'm currently about to pitch some shows, and now a lot of discussion is like, well, we can't make that because it's too expensive, like that kind of thing. And just thinking about with Futurama, where they were just like, well, let's just have a time travel episode where everything in this episode is entirely different. And when we come back, like it's not even going to be the same place anymore. We're going to like Britishify everything, and like they just didn't, they had money, I guess.
Yeah.
But we were not abused. I enjoyed working on it. It was pretty great. So
Yeah, I'm always amazed. I mean, it was like this one and then like Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack was one of those shows that it's like my favorite Cartoon Network series of all time. In my opinion, it's the greatest thing to ever come out of Cartoon Network Studios. That's why Jack is right in the middle of
cool.
my animation mural back here. But it was the same thing. Like Scott Will's the background designer for that one, and then the art director for that on the background side. Like every scene was damn near different. He was in mountains, he was in China, he was in Greece, he was in Scotland. I mean, it was just all of this crazy shit, and that's one of the things the guys always brought up. He's like, it was so difficult, just like episode to episode, and he's like even sometimes it'd be storyboard to storyboard, like Jack's going through, you know, different eras or different centuries, you know. So it was wild, it was cool to be able to stretch that muscle, but he's everybody was like it was difficult. But getting back to all the president's heads, my favorite line in this entire thing was from Professor Farnsworth, and it's when they figure out that they have to go find Ben Franklin in Philadelphia. And he goes, I'm sure no one has ever said this before, but I must get to Philadelphia as quickly as possible. I laughed so hard at that scene because anybody that knows anybody from Philadelphia, you know what we're talking about, ladies. It's a difficult one, but I loved that one. It made me giggle. I rewound it a couple times and listened to it again, and then I loved the different types of equipment Bender is called throughout this entire episode. He's a crock pot, which I don't even think they had crock pots at that time. You know, this is 1775. You know, he got called a pressure cooker or something like that. So it was all of these different things, and then he's like, "I'm not that," and then he would pop open with a chest with a chicken. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of fun seeing the things you guys put Bender into. Was there any other scenes that you can think about that you did other than writing the stuff in the background and some of those heads or making sure all those names in there? Does anything stick out?
So because I like was assistant directing on that one, I probably touched a lot of
Mm.
things on it. But it's hard to remember exactly what I worked on. I think I remember doing some stuff with Benjamin Franklin. Yeah, I think I just did a lot of stuff on it. Um, I specifically remember like Leela's fight scene, and doing the horse, and doing the queen. I think I did like all the queen stuff. It was really fun, like making her move her head around all crazy.
Was that your first assistant directing gig?
Yeah, on Futurama, but probably not that episode. I don't remember which one was the first
Okay.
one. Yeah.
Do you remember if you felt like, oh shit, like was it a lot of pressure going from, key layout to storyboarding and now you're doing the assistant directing thing? Or did you feel like, shit, I've done enough time here. I know what I'm doing.
Um, it's funny when I was doing it, I mostly felt pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, I knew I was good at the character layout part of it, but at that point in time, I still was not as good at the storyboarding part, and I was still trying to get better at that. So I definitely was still learning a lot from my director, Steven. And I really liked working with him. He was a very supportive director. Um, yeah, I mostly just felt pretty cool and felt like I could do it. And then now looking back on it, I was like, oh, I was so foolish, you know? Because like now I know all the things that I didn't know, you know. So
Yeah, but you don't know what you don't know, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So with I love when you guys bring up folks that helped you out along the way. So you said Steven. Is there anything that you might have taken from Steven, learning from him that you still use in your career today?
I think he helped me learn how to think about shots better. I'll say that one person that really helped me with that a lot is it was another director on Futurama, and his name is David Au. And he went on to work on what's that movie with the it was it was like a it was a 3D movie with a ship, and there was like this big red sea monster. Was it called Sea Beast or
Sea
something?
Beast? Yeah, Sea Beast. That's a phenomenal movie on Netflix.
Yeah, he's a really good storyboard artist, and he's done some other features as well. And he worked on Centaur World some, which I'm so sad that I did not try to work on that one. But I think it's really important to give people a critique in a way that helps them get better and
Mhm.
doesn't make them feel like shit. Because all of us artists constantly feel like shit without anybody telling you that you feel like shit. Um, so I think you just really you like I'm constantly fighting with feelings of like imposter syndrome and inadequacy, and that is coming from someone who is uh I'm directing now. I've been working for like a very long time in the animation industry. I usually do not have that much trouble finding work. So you'd think that I would be like, oh yeah, I'm cool. I know what I'm doing. But I constantly, every time I'm doing a job, I'm like, ah, is this going to be good enough? Like, maybe I should just quit and like move into the forest. Like, those are the kind of things that go through my head. And I know I've talked to other colleagues as well who I think their work is amazing, and they're like, yes, I feel the same way that you do. So I guess my point is that David saw that there was like things that I was not as good at in my shot choices, and he taught me about like lowering the horizon more, how to think about things, shot choices more like a point of view sort of shot. He saw that my perspective was a little bit crap. So he was like, here's this little book. It's $8, improve yourself. Talk to me about studying film more. And I really took what he said to heart, and he did it in a very nice, supportive way. And so I spent the next few years trying to get better perspective. I took a perspective class. I took more storyboarding classes. And then a few years later, I posted something, and I hadn't, like, we sort of kind of had kept in touch. And he looked at it and he was kind of like, you did it. And I was like, oh,
That's got
thank
to
God.
feel good.
Yeah. So, and then I've had, critiques from other supervisors over the years where they very much were more like, you're bad and your art's bad and you should feel bad. And I'm just like, you know what?
Jesus.
Why are you in a supervising position when you are this way? Like, you don't need to, crush people. Like, you can just tell them, hey, this is cool, but like, if you did it more like this would be better. I would like to see you do things more like this, and then you say, cool, thanks for telling me how I can improve. And now I'm going to
Hmm.
do that. So, Yeah. So thank you, David Ow. If you ever listen to this, bless your heart.
Shout out David, man. Thanks for doing what you're doing, man. So this thing comes up quite often during the show, imposter syndrome, right? I I'm in a creative field as well. I might not be drawing, but I do things with food, right? And it's one of those things where it's like you look around and it just takes like one bad day to have like one bad dish. Doesn't matter that I've been at this place for 5 years, that I'm the guy at this place for the last 5 years. It just takes that one time that I added too much salt or I didn't add enough this, I didn't add enough that. And you go, fuck, they're gonna find out that I'm faking this. I'm not as good as I think it is. So the way that I get through it is I just reset. I usually just throw that shit away and I start over no matter how long it takes. I go, fuck, this is going to be a long day. So I got to start over. What are some of the things that you do as an artist on your side? Because there are a lot of people that listen to this that are artists that are in your field. And I'm pretty sure they're struggling with that probably right now. So what are some of the things that you might do to kind of get you out of that mental headspace, that
Yeah,
negative
well,
headspace?
I can like show you.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, so I really like the show Our Flag Means Death.
Hmm.
You know, thanks for canceling that, David Zaslav, but also please don't fire me. Um, and I have some friends who made these daily affirmation cards, and they have Our Flag Means Death characters on them, and it's pretty cool. They're adorable. They're just little cards. So
Hmm.
this one says, I show myself kindness and compassion. Um, Asking for help is not weakness. Um, things like that.
Little
I
mental reminders.
I create beauty, because of, fuck yeah, I do.
Hmm.
And then I added to it with compliments from people that I respect, who I've worked with. Um, and anytime somebody compliments me at work, and it's a very sincere and really nice compliment, I save it because it sounds dumb, but we struggle so hard, like to create these things, and you just put your whole soul into it. And I am good at my job.
Hmm.
And if I need this to help me like function as a human being, then I'm going to do it. So like one of my friends like responded to one of the things I did, and their response was basically like, Aimee, what the fuck? This is so good. Everybody's going to freak out when they see it. And I saved that. And thanks, Cal. Um, like uh, Wendy Peeney, the creator of ElfQuest, is an acquaintance of mine. And she gave me a really nice compliment once, and that's in here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just feel like you have to protect that part of yourself. And I'm never the person that is not able to take a critique, and I welcome critiques so that I can improve, because dang, looking at the stuff I drew a year ago, it like makes me kind of want to throw up in my mouth a little bit. Uh, but that means that I'm still improving,
Hmm.
And so because I can see that the stuff I did a year ago isn't that good, I know that I've improved since then. And I just think you have to keep trying to improve, keep taking critique from people that you respect, who are not gonna cut you down, and save compliments from people that you respect, and be like, the next time somebody is a jerk to you and gives you like an unreasonable critique, you bring up your little sheet on your phone and you go, you know what? Fuck that. Like my friend who is an
Absolutely.
amazing artist says that I'm really good, and this is, a compliment that they gave me unprompted. I did not
Hmm.
ask them, and they said, Aimee, you're amazing. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. Maybe I'm not amazing, but believe in you, believe in the me that believes in you. Right, Gurren Lagann for all the anime fans out there.
It's incremental warfare with our mental state, you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things that like whenever it does come up, I don't like to gloss over it because I think there are a lot of people that struggle with that, you know. Um, it's one of those things. It's a lot like writer's block. I'm sure artist block, me in particular with food, you get food block every once in a while. So it's like finding other people that are in a creative space as well, going through the same shit you go through and then hearing how they kind of adapt, improvise, and overcome. Bear Grylls, shout out to you, and kind of make it through, really helps everybody. So thank you for sharing, your stories and then the ways you kind of get through those times where you kind of beat yourself up a little bit more than you should. Very necessary.
I think it's really important to try to remember where you did a good job and where somebody genuinely, unprompted told you that you did an amazing job, you know, and you just have to actually believe that they were telling you the truth because that's how bad it is, right? Like somebody compliments you and you're like, well, you're just saying that. You're just being nice. But
Or you're like, what's the ulterior motive? Why is he or she telling me that right now when I know this is shit? Why are they doing this? Are they setting me up?
something for me, like all the things that you're thinking in your head. And I think to some degree, like you have to analyze that and just be like, that is the bad thing inside my
Mhm.
head. And I'm going to believe, my supervisor that said that he loved me and he would definitely work with me again, So yeah.
Absolutely. So, all right. So last but sure as hell not least, man, fun on a bun this episode. Why'd you pick this one?
I picked this one because yet again, it's an episode that has a bunch of feelings.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed working on it. Again, I was working with Steven Sandoval on this one. And we got to do like this really fun sequence where Leela's like running up the side of the ship or something. There's like this fight with her and Fry. And I wasn't quite good enough at that point, like doing action stuff. And so he like helped me like make it cooler. And then we did this like really cool shot at the end where like they kiss and
Mhm.
it's like a 360 turn around them while they're doing it. And I was like, damn, that's so cool that we can do that. Like because a lot of times in 2D animation you are really limited like with camera movements. That was really fun. And oh, I did like all that drunk fry stuff at the beginning. The part where he's like up on the table, like, and it was so much fun to do. And then I also designed all their stupid little Oktoberfest outfits. They look so
Yeah.
cute. But yeah, I just really enjoyed that one. Oh, and yet again, they gave me the animal. So I had to do all the mammoths. And I specifically remember because, of course, we don't know exactly how mammoths moved. But I was like, okay, well, I'm going to analyze these elephant movements. And I did like this whole like pack, like explaining like how elephants move, before we sent it overseas. So that was kind of fun. Yeah.
This was a fun episode. This one is another one. Like I said, I did best line, best scene. I loved the whole drunk fry scene at the beginning. Because like I said, it's a fish out of water essentially story, and he's going to what he thinks is you're gonna get drunk, you're gonna look at women like he says, and then you're gonna eat hot dog or excuse me, sausages, Wiener Schnitzel, Spatzel, all this stuff, and it's gonna be like a good old German thing like they used to do in the early 2000s when, or excuse me, in the 90s when he was around. And to know that it's sophisticated now. It's like a wine tasting that they do with their beer instead of like just getting hammered. Best line in this one is probably like my favorite line out of the entire three episodes that you picked. But Fry comes up, he's drunk, he just finds out that him and Leela were a thing, they were dating, and he goes, and the worst part is I had to have breakup sex by myself, and he tells that to Bender, which was a phenomenal line. I loved it. I laughed my ass off. And then the best scene in this one for me was when, it was after the surgery for Leela, or the procedure where she had her memory kind of zapped away from any kind of thing with Fry. They go into the spaceship, and then she sees the chicken hat she originally got him. He's like, why do I feel sad? And then you see them do like the old Homer Simpson, like back away into the bush, but they do it into an escape pod, and the escape pod shoots off into the hangar bay and it just smashes into a wall. It's such a stupid scene that doesn't make any sense, but it was just so like the timing and editing on this show is just so so damn it's so done it's damn how do I say this without having a stroke, it's done so damn well, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's just it's the joke hits, it lands, it sticks, and then it's on to the next one. I see a lot of that same similarity with like Bob's Burgers, right? Like the editing for the jokes and the writing is just fucking top notch. They know what to do, they know to stew in it for just a little bit, and then they're on to the next scene. But that scene had me laughing really hard, and I loved the whole let's freeze him again type of storyline, like send him back further. He's got mammoths. They've got that whole world down there. So it was a fun episode, man. And like I said, as another one of those things, it was just like not one of these episodes are in the same timeline, not one of these same episodes are even in the same hemisphere. So you guys are doing new shit at each time. What was it like doing the? I know you said you don't know how mammoths kind of walked or moved within the world, so you did some elephant homework, if you will. What was it like trying to do a mammoth? Had you ever done a mammoth before at all? Ever drawn one?
I don't remember the exact particulars, but in general, quadrupeds tend to run in somewhat similar ways,
Mm,
but elephants don't. And so I definitely wanted to make sure that that was correct. Because typically we would, we'd look up the Edward Muybridge, like
mm,
it's a photographer from, gosh, Victorian time period, I think, or something. And all animators, the old animators anyway, they have his books, and
mm.
it has basically like frame by frame movements of animals and people and stuff. But I don't think he had elephants in there. So I was just like watching, I think, you know, YouTube videos of elephants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a little Ice Age in there.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Cool. Well, these episodes, fantastic episodes, and thank you for bringing these ones on, and thank you for coming on. Um, ladies and gentlemen, if you get a chance, go and check out Amy's anything. Just find her on, you're on Instagram. So all those links will be down below. So just go and check her out, her artwork. Like I said, these episodes that you got to work on were some of the best. Obviously, Jurassic Park, top two. It's probably, in my opinion, it's probably the best episode of the series. It's got so much heart. The writing is brilliant. Just, there's not one dull moment in that episode, and there's not one dull moment in any of these episodes that you had mentioned. So thank you for working on Futurama, and thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And then, watch the new Futurama when it comes out because I have friends that are still working on it. So hope you guys will enjoy that as well.
No, absolutely, and they can catch you on the Great North for now. I get you guys are. They did announce that you guys are coming back for the next season, or for a new season. I know they did
No,
with the rest of them at Bento.
we've not decided yet about season 6 for the Great North.
Mm,
So watch season 5. Tell all your friends to watch it because it is a adorable, wholesome show. And
mm.
as we talked about, I just really like I like things where the characters are nice to each other, and it's still very funny and unhinged in its own way, but the characters always come together and help each other, which I love. But I worked on, I think, like 5 episodes of season 5, which is cool, and that's currently airing. New episodes are coming out every week or so. So, yeah, it's really fun. We did some really nice stuff for it. So.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to watching it with my family. And ladies and gentlemen, like I said, you like this stuff, go out there and make sure you tell everybody because these are how these shows get picked back up by people going out there and saying, "Hey, I really like this. I want to see it back." So make sure you write Bento Box, make sure you write Fox, and whoever else owns the rights to these shows. Make sure you let them know what you think. Well, she's been Amy. I've been Julian. This has been the Cartoon Chronicles podcast, and this has been another piece of your childhood. Good night.